there were two doors on the table. Everyone in your life was betting on you picking one of them, but you did the unthinkable. You turned around, walked toward a horizon no one else could even see, and did something that caught the Almighty's attention. What the world calls being stubborn, heaven calls sovereign faith. And today, I need to tell you exactly what that choice cost the enemy. Stick with me until the very end. Before we're done, I'm giving you a 3-step protocol to lock in the path you've chosen. It's not just being tired. It's that specific state of mind between 2:10 and 4 a.m. Wide awake, staring at the ceiling fan, mentally weighing two exits that seem like the only options, yet neither feels right. One is the safe bet. You accept the status quo and just swallow the bitter pill. The other is the escape hatch. You quit everything, burn the bridges, and vanish. And you're stuck right in the middle, paralyzed, because deep down, you know neither of those is your answer. It's not indecision. It's a tension between a quiet certainty and the terrifying fear that the certainty is just a delusion. You feel it in your gut. A kind of spiritual gravity pulling you away from the two obvious choices without telling you where you're going. Meanwhile, the voices around you are pushing. Stop stalling and just pick a side. But inside, something tells you that a rushed decision would be a betrayal of the only signal you can still hear. You're still standing. You haven't caved to the pressure of the binary choice. That's not weakness. That is what God calls discernment in action. Hitting the like button is your public testimony. Heaven records what you're willing to stand for in the open. I saw it when everyone expected you to break left or right. I saw you standing still in the center. That silence you labeled as paralysis, I called it obedience. Today you're receiving 3 things. First, the spiritual truth behind being stuck between 2 roads. When God doesn't give you peace on either path, it's not confusion. It's because the answer is in a third place you can't see yet. The forced pause is the map. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part? You start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video. It's on either path. It's not confusion. It's because the answer is in a third place you can't see yet. The forced pause is the map. Second, a 3-step protocol you can execute today to swing that third door open without waiting for anyone's permission and without needing the circumstances to change first. Third, a declaration that will flip the script on this period of your life, shifting you from a place of shame to a place of authority. Don't check out now. What comes next explains why those 2 options were never meant for you anyway. Before we go further, I have a request. Close your eyes for a moment if you're somewhere safe, or just look away from the screen for a second. Because what I'm about to show you are signs, and they need your full attention to make sense. The first sign is the vice grip. You felt it. 2 simultaneous voices screaming at you to go in opposite directions. One internal, one external. You called it unresolved conflict. It's actually the field being divided before a breakthrough. When God is about to move you, the enemy activates both pressures at once to force you to choose out of exhaustion, not revelation. The noise isn't the problem. The noise is the warning bell. The second sign is the quiet shame. You've stopped trying to explain to people why you haven't made a move yet. You started giving vague answers. You dodged the topic at the family BBQ, during Sunday brunch, and in the group chats that are still sitting on read. You called it hiding. It's actually prophetic protection. What God is building in the pause cannot be contaminated by premature opinions. Silence isn't a failure. It's incubation. The third sign is nameless certainty. You can't logically argue why you rejected both options. You just know they weren't it. An internal weight with no clear address. You called it weak intuition or just fear in disguise. It's actually the spirit moving you beneath the level of logic. When peace is absent from the obvious choices, it's not hesitation. It's a compass operating on a higher frequency. The fourth sign is the internal drain. This isn't long day at the office tired. It's that specific heaviness that hits when you have to explain for the 10th time why you haven't acted yet. As if every conversation is siphoning your fuel. You called it weakness. It's actually the cost of carrying a revelation that hasn't fully landed yet. The chosen ones who carry a new direction feel that weight before the direction is even visible. The fifth sign is the temptation of the safe path. The easier of the two options has started to look acceptable. Not because you want it, but because the fatigue of waiting is growing faster than your certainty. You called it being realistic. It's actually the final test before the opening. The enemy always cranks up the volume on the easy way out, right when the third path is about to be revealed. The more tempting it is to just settle, the closer you are to the promise. Type free in the comments if this word is hitting home. Close your eyes again for a second. Take a deep breath. This won't work if your mind is divided. There's a figure in the Bible who lived this exact moment. Joshua stood before the walls of Jericho with two military options: a frontal assault with the resources he had, or a retreat to wait for reinforcements that might never come. Two roads. The people were waiting for the command. The generals were waiting. The enemy was waiting behind the walls. And God stepped in and said, "March in silence for 7 days, and on the 7th, shout." It wasn't either of the two options. It was a third path that didn't fit any West Point handbook, any military logic, or anyone's expectations. Joshua chose the third way, and the walls didn't just move, they collapsed. What looked like insanity was the only way heaven could act. In response to an obedience that made zero human sense. In a completely different setting, a high-level negotiator was once called to break a deadlock between two massive corporations. He sat in the boardroom, listened to both proposals, each side convinced their way was the only exit, and then did what no one expected. He stood up, thanked them for their time, and said he needed 48 hours. He walked out. Everyone thought he'd failed, that the deal was dead. 2 days later, he returned with a third framework no one had considered, and both sides signed. The third path wasn't born in the heat of the pressure. It was born in the silence of the exit. What Joshua and that negotiator have in common is what you have: the courage to refuse a binary choice, to exist in a pause that others mistake for weakness, but is actually the posture that unlocks what direct conflict never could. Joshua walked in silence when he should have attacked. The negotiator left when he should have bargained, and you stood still when you were supposed to choose. All three of you did the same thing. You obeyed an instruction the environment didn't understand. Type Joshua in the comments if you recognize that posture in yourself. Let me stop for 1 full minute. You reached a point where two real options were on the table. Both had logic. Both had social pressure. Both had people you respect pushing you toward them. And you picked neither. Not out of cowardice. Not out of fear. But because something inside said they were both wrong for you. That is a rare act of discernment. Most people cave to the binary because waiting for the third path is the most expensive act of faith there is. And you paid that price. Night after night. Dodging conversation after conversation. Absorbing pressure after pressure without folding. I know what it cost you to not choose when the world was watching. I know the night you almost caved just to make the pressure stop. I was there, and I needed you to stay exactly where you were. Because what I'm opening cannot be accessed through the two doors that were visible. The door I open doesn't show up for people who accept just any entrance. It shows up for the one who stood at the right wall, waiting for the right gate. And here is who you are in the middle of all this. First identity, the Waymaker. You were raised in an environment where the only options were the obvious ones. Give in or run, fight or settle, stay or go. Over time, sometimes through hardship, you learned that internal peace is a more reliable compass than external pressure. You don't exist to navigate the options the world offers. You exist to reveal paths that weren't on the map yet. This identity gives you the authority to refuse choices that aren't yours, without owing anyone an explanation. Second identity, the steward of the sacred pause. Every time you waited when you should have acted, you were being tempered to recognize the difference between fear-based paralysis and the stillness of discernment. The season you're in isn't a stalling phase. It's the phase where the revelation is being prepared before it's delivered. The pause isn't a lack of movement. It's the womb of the third path. This identity means you will become a reference point for people being crushed by either-or choices. Not because you have all the answers, but because your life proves the third way exists. Third identity, the pioneer of the unseen. God didn't put you here to repeat what's already been done. He put you in the tension between two extremes because the revelation He wants to give the world through you only emerges when you refuse the easy exits. Every no to an obvious path was a calibration. Every night without an answer expanded your capacity to carry something new. What you are about to build, lead, or launch didn't fit in the two options available. It fit exactly in the space where you stood waiting. Write which identity hit you the hardest: Waymaker, Steward, or Pioneer. And subscribe right here so the next word finds you already in position. What comes next is the first step of the protocol I promised, and it starts right now. This is the third path protocol. 3 steps. You can start tonight. Step 1, the declaration of refusal. Tonight, before you go to sleep, say it out loud. I refuse the 2 options that pressure is trying to force on me. I am available for the path heaven is preparing. This isn't denying reality. It's positioning your will. You are telling both heaven and the enemy that your stance will not be dictated by outside forces. Step 2, directed silence. For 10 minutes tomorrow morning, no phone, no music, no podcasts. Sit and ask quietly, what is the third path? You don't need an instant answer. You just need to ask the right question. The question tunes the frequency. Most people never find the third path because they're too busy trying to decide between the 2 they already know. Step 3, the gravity journal. Throughout your day, jot down anything. On paper, your phone, whatever, any thought, invite, or opportunity that wasn't part of the 2 original options. Don't filter it. Don't judge it. Just record it. The third path often arrives disguised as a small idea before it reveals itself as a major direction. The sign that it's working isn't a high. It's a very specific quietness, as if a pressure you didn't even know was there has suddenly lifted, as if the weight of the math has been taken off your shoulders. When that shows up, you'll know the path is opening. But now, I have to warn you about what's going to try to stop you in the next few hours. In the next 72 hours, 3 things will be thrown at you. Not maybe, definitely. First, manufactured urgency. Someone will show up, a person, a deadline, a notification, demanding you decide right now. The deadline will look real. The pressure will feel legitimate. It will feel like waiting any longer will cost you everything. Your weapon against it is simple. Ask, if I wait 24 hours, what is actually lost? If the answer is nothing but someone else's discomfort, it's manufactured. It's not a God-given obligation. It's enemy pressure. Do not fold. Second, the voice of common sense. Someone you respect with the best intentions will give you a flawless logical argument for one of the options you already rejected. They'll use words like realism, maturity, and timing. The argument will be good. Your weapon isn't to argue back. It's your position. Listen with respect, but tell yourself internally, that's a good argument, but it's not my path. You don't need to convince them. You need to hold what heaven showed you. Third, history's ghost. A memory will resurface of a time you waited and lost, or a time your intuition was wrong. The enemy will use your own track record as a weapon. Your response is to declare it out loud. Every mistake I made taught me how to tell the difference between fear and certainty. I know the difference now, and what I feel now isn't fear. And the most dangerous tactic isn't from the outside, it's from within. It's interpreting the exhaustion of the wait as a sign that you messed up. When the fatigue screams louder than the certainty, remember, the cost of the pause is never higher than the cost of picking the wrong door just to make the discomfort go away. Write protected in the comments. The decree is sealed. Now, wherever you are, if you can, put your hand on your heart. Even if you're on the bus, in the car, or at your desk, do it mentally. Feel the weight of everything you've carried while standing between those two paths. Every night of mental math. Every conversation you dodged. Every time you swallowed the pressure without giving in. Every moment you stood still while the world demanded movement. Now let it go. Not because it's over, but because you don't have to carry it alone anymore. That night, you sat between those two options and couldn't pick one. I was so close, I could hear your heart racing. I didn't give you the sign you wanted because what I was preparing wouldn't fit in the window you were looking through. I needed you to turn around. And you did. Not because it was easy, but because you still trust me more than you trust the noise. That is what left me speechless. Not your strength, but your trust. You stayed in a place that hurt because you believed I knew something you couldn't see yet. And I did. The third path exists. It always has. And now, you're standing at the entrance. Go with everything I've poured into you. Because what's ahead wasn't built for the one who took the easy way. It was built for the one who stayed. Walk with authority. Heaven already knows your name on the third path. Amen. Write done in the comments. The decree is sealed, and heaven has recorded it. Share this with someone you know is caught between two impossible choices right now. Someone you see wavering, exhausted by the math, ready to cave out of sheer burnout. You don't have to explain a thing. Just send it. And if they want to go deeper, the link is in the first comment, waiting just like it waited for you. It is done. You are not the same person you were when this message started. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part, you start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video.